on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with our prize picks preview for this week's US Open. It's major championship week. We've got a huge board to take down on prize picks. Of course, anytime there's a major, we have the world's best teeing it up, so a lot of good players to choose from. And in this video, going to cover exactly what to expect from the country club on Thursday, playing conditions, scoring averages, all that sort of fun stuff. And then going to talk about my top 5 props here for the first round. We'll talk about how I'm putting my card together, some of the other cards I'm going with as well, to get you completely prepared to putting your slips together here for Thursday. So without further ado, a lot to talk about here for the first round. Let's get right on into it. Alrighty, we've got the Pro Visualizer tool on the screen, which is great because for this week's event, we have the updated routing available. This golf course doesn't really exist. It's a combination between the country club's usual 18 holes and then an adjacent 9 called the Primrose 9 that they've added for a little bit of flair here in 2022. In general, this is a par 70 setup and a short one at that, right around 7,200 yards. The PGA Tour lists it officially at like 7,254, but we got it on here at 7,204. Either way, right, not a super long course that we have to worry about, but it has its share of long holes. So let's just go through it. You can see there's plenty of par 4s in that 480 range, par 3s over 200 yards, but plenty of short holes too. And that's why it still has a relatively short distance. Just 286 on this drivable par 4, 378 on this par 4, and even this par 5 is just 540 yards. So it's got a great combination of extremely long holes around the country club, as well as some of these gettable, potentially even drivable par 4s like we have here at number 5, and maybe even at number 17 if they decide to move up the tee box. In terms of your count, it's 4 par 3s, 2 par 5s, 12 par 4s, but you're used to seeing for a par 70 setup. And a lot of the doglegs, at least on the par 4s, go in both directions, but both par 5s do dogleg from right to left. So that's obviously going to favor players that have a little bit of a draw for righties and a slice for lefties, but it's not going to be a massive effect because for the 12 par 4s, it's a pretty good distribution between the two ball flights. Elevation profile, you can see there is a little bit of elevation change, particularly on the par 3s where all of them play uphill. For the par 5s, they're relatively flat, but even more so than elevation change from tee the whole way to green is a lot in the fairway. There's a lot of humps and hills that make blind shots a commonality around this golf course. So in general, you're looking at a tough affair. Like these long par 4s are going to cause havoc. You're going to see plenty of bogeys. The rough is going to be in that 4 to 5 inch range. So we're really looking for ball striking first players, people that can put themselves in the fairway, gain strokes with their distance, but most importantly, elite level iron players. These greens are tiny, just right around 4,000 square foot on average. So if you're not an elite level iron player, you're going to be scrambling a whole lot around the country club. And with that 4 to 5 inch rough, good luck shooting anything close to 72, 73 at that point. You're going to be in that 76 to 77 range. I would expect a winning score in the single digits under par, particularly as we've gone reports from the golf course, and they seem to be pretty difficult from what we've seen so far. In a cut line, probably in that +4 to +5 range. So I just expect this to be a well-rounded test and to take out quite a few players. The weather is pretty ideal, so if we take a look at Tuesday and Wednesday, you can see it's going to be relatively dry, so conditions should be firm and fast for Thursday, and you're going to have a slight AM advantage on Thursday. So the guys in the morning wave going to be in that 6 to 13 mile an hour range when it comes to their sustained winds, whereas in the afternoon it's a solid 13 to 14 for the entire afternoon. You can see from like 7 to 11 a.m. it's in that single digit range for the morning, so might be slightly easier in the morning, but it's not like it's going to play super well under par. It's just a difficult golf course regardless of the wind conditions, so not really a huge impact that I'm looking at there. Now let's hop into my top props on the board. So we're going to start with birdies or better, where I'm taking 3 guys at 3 birdies. And for me, 3 is really the sweet spot. There's a few guys on the board that might be higher percentage birdie players. might even have higher projections when it comes to their round one performance. But for me, 3 is the sweet spot because of some of these easy holes. Like I said before, you have that 500-yard par 5. That should be a gimme birdie for the entire field. If you're going to hit the over, you surely need to be birdieing that hole. But you have a few of these quote-unquote drivable par 4s. The one that's 286, that is certainly drivable. This one that's 367 over there. You birdie at least 1, 2 of those. You're on track to at the very least push, let alone the other 13, 14 holes that you have on your schedule to go out there and pick up an extra birdie. You have a 134-yard par 3. There's just, another par 5, even though it's 600 yards. Getting to 3 birdies seems realistic, but getting to 4 is a completely different task, right? You're going to have to birdie one of these difficult holes. So for me, I love all of our push potential with these guys. I mean, it's Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantlay, top 20 players in the world. Guys that we have a lot of confidence in getting to that number. So I love all of their chances to at the very least push. I have Colin Morikawa projected for 4 birdies. Jordan Spieth projected for 4.3, so actually quite significantly above there. And Patrick Cantlay projected for 4.2 birdies. So all significantly above their projection there. But more than anything, I love their chances to at the very least push, which can be a big deal when it comes to these larger cards. Next up, let's go over to strokes. We're taking the under on Justin Thomas. And the main reason I have, confidence going to JT in the strokes category as opposed to some of these other players is his around the green play. The guy is an absolute wizard at saving par. And of late, the flat stick has been there as well. He's gaining close to 7/10 of a stroke per round with his flat stick, which is elite level stuff. If he continues that, the short games there, he's just going to be somebody who's putting under par rounds up there, round in and round out on tour. So I have a lot of confidence there. He is playing in the afternoon, starting at 1:14 p.m. So that is slightly suboptimal. I'd rather him be playing in the morning. But given his form, he won the PGA Championship, top 3 finish last week at the RBC Canadian Open. I want to be riding this heater from Justin Thomas. And now lastly, a matchup prop. So because we took all supportive stances with our first 4 picks, got to take a matchup to wash away that multiplier, because if we took, let's say another over on birdies or another under on strokes, we'd only be getting paid, I believe 8-1 odds on this. Now that we add in the matchup bet, it goes back up to 10x. So that's important for me. I don't want to be taking suboptimal multipliers. And frankly, this Phil versus Furyk matchup, I love. And I know there's a huge negative sentiment around Phil Mickelson, but even last week at the Live Tour when he wasn't playing well, he was still making birdies. And round 1, that was especially apparent. He went out there, I believe, made 6 or 7 birdies on the day. For him, on Friday and Saturday, was not very sharp. In fact, I actually played him on Saturday, hoping he'd hit the under on his prop. He shot like 75. So that's why we have him matched up against Jim Furyk. The form isn't there, but from a long-term perspective, Phil Mickelson's a high birdie percentage player. He's just ultra aggressive. He's going to go out there and make plenty of birdies, but unfortunately for him, he's also going to make a lot of bogeys, right? So, it's when he's able to keep the clean scorecard out there that he goes out there and gets himself into contention. And, obviously, getting into contention is irrelevant when it comes to this bet. All he has to do is go out there and make more birdies than Jim Furyk, who's playing on the Champions Tour and at a U.S. Open venue. He's not going to have any chance of hitting these greens out of the rough. Now, granted, he's a relatively accurate driver. He's still going to have to hit long irons into greens where other players are potentially even hitting wedges due to his lack of distance, and that worries me there. So, Phil Mickelson, the ball striking was decent last week too. The putter was the real thing that was holding him back. Potentially gets on back track this week and gives us a much better multiplier for our card. So that's the 5x card. What I'm doing for a lot of my other cards is just round robining. So I'm taking, 2, 3 of the props that I have here up top of the top 4, and then mixing in one of these matchup props, because obviously with the multipliers in play, you want to make sure you're not getting screwed by them. So Phil Mickelson is a matchup prop that I like, but to differentiate myself a little bit, I'm going to a few others. I like the Jon Rahm against Max Homa. Max Homa is a high birdie percentage player, but Jon Rahm should absolutely take this place apart. I like the Xander Schauffele versus HV3. I don't think that's a bad one to take. Jordan Spieth versus Davis Riley. Not a bad prop to consider. Moving down even further, Brooks versus Danny Lee. I would take that prop. Just, there's quite a few props on this matchup board that I would like getting to. Just none that I really want to, take 4 or 5 of in the same card. They're volatile bets. Obviously, the favorites are what you're going to want to take when it comes to these matchup props. But they have a lot of that inherent volatility. So I wouldn't be taking 4 to 5 together. One of them is likely to stink at that point. But I am confident taking them one at a time. it's a little bit more digestible in that type of format. All right, that's all I've got for the Prize Picks preview. Before you hop on out of here, let me know what your favorite prop on the board is down in the comments. As per usual, we'll have you covered for rounds 2 through 4 as well. So if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I highly recommend you do so. So that way you don't miss any of the videos when they drop in the future, as well as my course breakdowns, DraftKings DFS content, showdown live streams over the weekend. I've got you guys completely covered for all of the PGA Tour schedule and potentially even the Live Golf schedule. So we'll have to see if we have content coming out for that. But I appreciate all the support here, guys. Best of luck with all of your slips for the first round, and let's get this cash.